As businesses around the world buckle in and brace themselves for the impact that the coronavirus pandemic will have on their operations, proper crisis management has become a necessity for company leadership. Yet only 54% of companies have a crisis plan in place. One of the most important actions that business leaders can take in the event of a global crisis event like COVID-19 is to quickly implement a plan to communicate company-wide updates. That's why Beekeeper prepared a general list of internal communication tips to help you effectively communicate with your team during a crisis situation. Download Beekeeper's free crisis communications checklist today at www.beekeeper.io/crisisavertedpodcast. That's www.beekeeper.io/crisisavertedpodcast. Welcome to the Crisis Averted Podcast, produced by CJ Media Solutions. I'm your host, CJ Arlotta. In this episode, I speak with Michael LeBlanc, CEO of CCi Voice. During our conversation, he reveals how his business helped companies with transitioning employees to remote work during the COVID-19 pandemic and provides insight into some of the technology challenges employees face when working from home. Feel free to send me your feedback at cj@cjmediasolutionsllc.com. Oh, and if you're listening to the Crisis Averted Podcast on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating, review, or both. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Michael, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Gotcha. Looking forward to it.
So for listeners who aren't familiar with you, Michael, mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure thing. I'm a CPA and computer geek turned phone guy. From an early age, I was into things technical. And then after an accounting background for probably around 7 years, I always had computer clients nights and weekends. I finally started my own business in 93, being a computer consultant. And then the second year in business, when I did our own company phone system just for fun, I realized how I liked that technology. And so our company started doing phone systems as well. So in the early days, we were both a computer and phone system company. And back then, there wasn't a lot of tie-in between the two, but it was beginning to happen. They called it CTI, Computer Telephony Integration. And the best we could do at the time was to make a phone call from your ACT database by pressing the space bar on your keyboard. And that was integrating your phone and your computer. That's how we got started.
So what's the big story behind CCi Voice? What was the problem you were really looking to solve?
So we've been in business 27 years and putting phone systems in closets for all that time. And when Voice over IP came out, computers and phones tied together on the network, that was our nirvana. But we've always had phones in closets, phone systems in closets. 5 years ago, we began to become our own carrier, our own hosted phone service. And the beauty was that we no longer had to rely on some crazy carrier to not do their job yet again. And we would wait hours and days to get simple changes made by the phone company that was who then themselves was the cloud. So now we got to be the cloud ourselves, and it's been just tremendous. So that was LeBlanc Communications Group, which we converted to CCi Voice this year. And we also purchased a company on Long Island that surprisingly had over 700 customers, and not a single, maybe one or two of them, of all those customers, had a cloud-based system. And of course, the cloud is all we think about. All of our customers are hosted in the cloud, just about most of them. So this was an opportunity for us to pick up a company whose customers really needed some help to kind of move along. We do all things infrastructure for companies: cabling, switching, firewall, Wi-Fi, the phones on the desks, the phones at home, and managing all the carriers that go along with all of that. That's what we do. And this is a great opportunity to grow the business. So we changed to CCi Voice because it was time to change the name and to merge multiple companies together.
So you must have been inundated with requests from businesses looking to transition their employees to remote work at the beginning of the pandemic, correct?
You have no idea. We do track how many calls a day that we have for support. And we were in the December, January, maybe into February timeframe, we did about 100 calls a day where we were helping people with various things they needed for their phones and their other technologies. And suddenly when March hit, we were at 300 calls per day with the same staff. So you can imagine we were jamming. And then it happened again in June when people began to go back to the office. And that's been great. The good news is that all of the customers that we had, their technology was ready. They simply either had to bring a phone home or bring their laptop or their smartphone home and have an extension in their pocket or an extension on their computer. They could just go home. And that was the beauty of it all. They did need a little bit of help in getting used to it, but once they did, they were good to go. So it really worked out great for us.
So, what type of technology challenges did they have when you first started working with them when they were trying to move remotely?
Well, the biggest challenge, I guess you could say, is that imagine you're going from a corporate environment where all the networking is all very reliable and it's buttoned up and good to go, and there's professionals managing all that in a 20, 30, 50, 100 person company, 500 person company, and then all of a sudden those people go home to the network that they have at home. Of course, it's not the same quality. So we've had hardware issues, firewalls that were $50 firewalls or no firewall at all. You take whatever the cable company gives you. Little switches that weren't really designed for handling phones. And then internet quality that was subpar, neighborhoods that were oversaturated with usage and there's not enough internet because everyone's going home at the same time. That's been the biggest challenges of all. We've been able to work with the customers to get around some of those things. We can't obviously go to everyone's home and hold their hand physically in person every time, but we've been able to do just enough to really get them over the hump so that things work much better. And these clients are so incredibly grateful. It's just amazing to hear the happiness in the voice of these employees working from home. We actually did this years ago. 2005, we began having our employees work from home. We've been preaching the gospel of teleworking for a very long time. And finally, the world is catching up to us. Now we're nothing special, but we've been doing this for a long time.
Now, what are some best practices that companies can give their employees when working from home so they don't have a lot of those issues?
Well, some of the things that we learned that we knew were always a problem with voice over IP in general, taking a phone home with you or using some technology on your local Wi-Fi, the local firewall can often be a problem. And there's, I don't want to get too technical here, but there's something called SIP helper and SIP ALG. Those are features that some firewalls have built in, and they're supposed to help voice over IP phone calls be better. They actually do, ironically, the opposite. They destroy VoIP quality. They don't work very well. That's one thing that a customer could ask their cable company to help them disable, or they could look at their firewall and have it changed out. Sometimes the quality of the firewall is so bad, it's literally a $50 or $40 firewall. They can go get a $100 firewall, and it makes a difference. They could also, maybe there's no wire near the desk and the person wants to use a hard phone on their desk in their home office, but there's no internet nearby and they have to get a wire run. So sometimes there's a way to do that wirelessly with special devices, or they just use their laptop instead. That's become probably the most functional thing, is to use your laptop as your desk phone. Then you can take it anywhere on your home Wi-Fi. But then, and maybe your Wi-Fi is not that great. Those are things that could be checked out and improved.
And are all those things, does your company work with your clients on that? Is that like a continuous process? Because like you were saying, each one of these employees, they have all different home setups. So what's kind of the best way to, I guess, get all that on board at the right, the right recommendation?
Well, we do recommend, affordable home appliances that take some of that worry away. Maybe it's a little firewall that might be a $100 device instead of something that they already have, and that's a small upgrade that a home worker could do. Sometimes the customer's own IT departments are already advising our customers are anywhere from 25, 50, 100, 500 employees. Sometimes they already have that team in place, and they get the advice from their own company. We usually are an overlay to that, but just small. We'll give them small suggestions for replacements they can use on their own. This is of course, aside from the barking dogs and the screaming kids in the background, we can't help with that problem, but we can certainly help with some of the other things that come up on the technology front. And also there's a technology in place that is somewhat new, but it's all the rage in the carrier circles, called SD-WAN. SD-WAN stands for Software Defined Wide Area Networking. There are vendors out there and the products out there that can prioritize the traffic in someone's home. So when all your kids are using Fortnite and downloading and watching movies on Netflix and such during the day, or doing their homework videos and so on, and streaming with the teacher. There's got to be something in place that prioritizes all that traffic and keeps mom and dad's business call and Zoom call at a high quality. There's devices out there and there's technology and there's services. SD-WAN is the underlying kind of concept behind it to prioritize what's most important and minimize what is not critical for mom and dad's phone call, perhaps.
Do you find a lot of your clients are helping their employees with purchasing a lot of these products, or is it a mix? Do they give extra money out to enhance their networks at home?
Yeah, we have seen that happen. We've seen them, of course, buy telephones to bring home when they already have a phone in the office, especially when they're going back and forth a lot. They might buy them a lower cost desk phone that can work on the same network. And us as a carrier, our solution lets users have up to 5 devices as their user presence. It's a home desk phone, a work desk phone, it's your smartphone in your pocket, it's your desktop, and it's even your cell phone on Verizon and AT&T. That extension is there. So sometimes they will buy that phone for them. Sometimes they will give them a small allocation to upgrade their technology. I know it's a short-term thing right now. We think this is going to be over soon. But think of the savings for these companies when they're starting to minimize how much office space they need. The savings is really worthwhile for them to make that investment in their employees at home. So I hope they do that.
Do you see a lot of your clients going back to the office already, or do you see a lot of them staying at home?
That's a great question. I wish we ought to do a survey amongst our customer base to get the real numbers on that. One of the biggest segments we serve, which is critical, is the call center space. So it's contact center. They call it contact center now because it's not just phone calls anymore. It could be texting, it could be messaging from a website. It could be all kinds of ways that you can interact with your customers, and you do it in a way that the customer wants, not the way that you do. So those contact center companies, some of them are in the medical billing space. A number of our customers do that. There'll be 50, 60 employees that are all answering calls about medical bills and helping maybe make appointments for doctor's offices. They've just had no choice but to go home. And in some cases, there's been a COVID scare at the office. And they can't just shut down the business and no one's answering the phone. So they've had to go home. So I actually have been surprised at the number of people still at home. And then once in a while, we'll have an office with 30, 40, 50 people, and they tell us, we have to go home again. There was a COVID scare. Everyone is going home except 1 or 2 people. So that is happening, and it's happening regularly. So I'm just grateful that this is working out, that the technology supports it. Of course, the cable companies and the Fioses of the world are getting bogged down. We've got plenty of cases where neighborhoods are choking from the burden, but in general, it's working very well. I'm really impressed.
Could you talk a little bit about your communications platform and how that's kind of different from Zoom or some of the other video conferencing platforms out there?
So yes, we work. So we've been in the local phone business for forever. We serve a general area. We serve Southern New England, New York, and New Jersey. We serve that region, which is the Northeast, and we consider ourselves local. And we're local because we can go and visit a customer and put that phone system in, hold their hand, COVID allowing, of course, to train them and get them up to speed on the technology, whereas the national providers largely will ship you everything and say, good luck with that. So that's what we consider being a local phone company, that we will go on site anytime we have to if something is wrong. But all of it's in the cloud. So the box in the closet is no longer in the closet. We are the closet. So who cares if your building loses power and so on. But because we are local, that makes us different. So I think that the big differentiator between us as a phone company is that we really, number one, we really care. My employees get visibly upset if someone's having a bad day on the phone system side at their office because their internet or whatever is wrong. We care, but we're also local, and we will go on site when needed. So we'll do cabling, we'll do new Wi-Fi, we'll go and install a new internet connection, maybe as a backup to the primary. And that's been one of the biggest things that we've seen with COVID being so crazy that the cable modem companies are choking. We are putting in backup cellular and other types of products to make the cable work better. And that alone is a great reason to be local. You can't take care of that nationally. You have to be there to be able to do those sort of things. That seems to me, from what I'm hearing from customers, is why they love us so much, why we get such rave reviews, that we're a local phone company, not a national.
And you mentioned that you work with smaller companies as well as larger companies, and sometimes you work with those internal IT departments. Do you where are you when it comes to the customers? Do you work primarily, the majority of your customer base, are they those larger companies where you're working with internal IT departments, or are they really smaller businesses where you're kind of taking care of a lot?
See, that's a great question. So between those with IT and those without IT, there's a cutoff. Typically, if it's maybe 35, 40, or 50 employees, you begin to see that there's an IT person in-house. Otherwise, the smaller companies will hire out a firm that helps them with their IT. If there's 100, 200, 300, 500, like some of our customers, we have 1,500 and larger size customers. Those won't just have an IT person, they'll have an entire team. We've seen 20 and 30 person IT teams. So we love working with the large groups because we train the trainer, so to speak, and they get so good at it because they're the ones internally who hear their employees' questions, they go and take care of them, and they're very happy to get to do the local support themselves. In fact, they have a pride in being the local support for their people. So ironically, the easiest customers for us are the ones that are very, very large because a lot of the day-to-day is taken care of by those people, but we're always involved in making system changes and larger changes that they don't have time to do. Then on the smaller customer side, let's say 20, 30 employees or even 15, we're the only thing they have. We're doing every single change. Now, I hate to admit it, but we have customers who sometimes call us every other day because their business is so dynamic and changing, they need our help. Sadly for us, we can't charge for that because everything we do is unlimited. It's all included at no extra charge. But that's what we sign up for. And then there's customers that might only talk to us every 2 or 3 months with a question or a change, maybe a holiday that comes up, or a special handling for a new product they're launching and they want to have a new phone number that is special for that and goes to a special place in their contact center. So it changes all the time, but we love the dynamics nature of it. And my employees never get bored because we're always talking to somebody interesting.
How can businesses prepare for 2021 from a technology standpoint?
Well, I think that this has been such I won't even say a rude awakening. It's been a fascinating awakening. The explosion of video as a functionality, and obviously Zoom is one of those things. And Zoom is now a word like Kleenex. It's a verb instead of a product.
Right.
So we're happy about that, and partially because we have our own product, which is called Sangoma Meet, that does all the same things, and it's free, and you can actually make your own meeting with just your name. I can go to meet.sangoma.com/Michael if I want. I've now created a meeting. So that alone, just having a tool like a Zoom or anything like that, and making it become something you do every day, something that your customers are used to, your employees are used to, will make those work from home people not seem so far away. You have to avoid the isolation that happens with work from home situations, and people have to feel they're part of a culture and part of the team. As long as the management is encouraging the use of these collaboration tools face to face, I think that will make the next wave, whatever the next wave is, even if it's just we're all going to just work from home or whatever that's going to be, I think more collaboration using good technology that's easy and not intimidating will make everyone feel like they're part of the team no matter where they work.
If somebody's looking to work with a firm like yours, what are some things they should look for? What are some questions they should ask?
Oh gosh. Well, I guess part of it is if you get an internet-based phone service, there's a lot that can go wrong. And that's really, the first question should be, how do you, the carrier, and we are carriers in our industry, if we're providing a hosted phone service, you can call us a phone company or a phone carrier. How do you help us to know when something is wrong? So you can imagine if all of us in the business were being blamed for internet problems when it was nothing of our doing. It wasn't our fault, it's the internet, right? Well, we don't want to have that reputation, and we don't want to be responsible for things that we have no control over, right? So long ago, we instituted some amazing monitoring systems that let us check out and constantly, 24 hours a day, monitor the quality of every one of our customer sites, even some of the home people that are important. We take the time to put those IP addresses in if we can. So now when someone says, I'm having a problem with my phone call, we know why. But it goes beyond that. So internet phone quality is measured by something called the MOS score, mean opinion score. The MOS is from 1 to 5, 5 being the best, which is almost never achievable. 4.5 is the actual best you'll get on a phone call, which is really HD voice quality. Then 3.5 is considered good cell phone quality. 3.0 is poor cell phone quality. 2.5 is virtually unusable. And 2.0, forget about it. So we measure all of our call quality. Our back-end servers check the quality electronically of every phone call. If we see that a customer is having a lot of problems, my staff gets notified that XYZ company has had 4 or 5 bad calls in the last 20 minutes. We then reach out to them and say, hey, XYZ company, we're so sorry. We're seeing you're having bad voice quality. Maybe you haven't noticed it yet, but you are. We're already working on it to identify what the problem is. And oh, by the way, we just figured out it's your internet connection. There's a lot of packet loss and high ping times. And it started an hour ago. We're already contacting the internet carrier for you because we provided them for you. We're on it. We'll let you know how things go. Which phone company would ever do that? That you've ever heard of would do that?
Right.
None of them do. That's something that you could try to ask for. We do it because we don't want to. We're lazy. We don't want to have to. We don't want to be blamed for something that's not our fault. We don't want to have to chase our tail for nothing. Having that data in place tells us immediately what the problem is without any circling around and chasing ourselves. We just know.
Michael, what about a lot of these, like we were mentioning about earlier, these employees that are working from home? If you are monitoring the systems and notice that there are issues, if you notice the issue is something that's not on your end and maybe something at the home, how do you go about bringing that up to your client and letting them? Do you have like are there times a disconnect between you and the client trying to ensure that that employee is going to be able to enhance that service in some way?
I can think of a few instances, not many, but just a couple where this has come up, where we have a large, one of our clients is a very large call center of a convenience store chain with 1,500 stores throughout North America, and we do all their IT all the support for the phone system for their IT folks. And one of their people had significant, ongoing, continual problems at her home office. We could see that it was her Comcast day in, day out. And so we let them know. Eventually, I think she had to get a different carrier or just beat up her own cable company because they just weren't fixing the problem. But we have to let them know it's just our job, and then eventually it gets fixed. There's only so much you can do. Typically, if someone has the choice between, let's say, Comcast and Fios in their neighborhood, well, if Comcast or Charter or Spectrum, if their local cable company isn't doing the job, they have no choice but to go get someone else. And that's an example of when we can give them the data to prove it. We can even give charts and graphs to people to give to their cable company to show why they're so bad.
So you mentioned before you recently acquired a company. Are you looking to continue to acquire more companies?
Absolutely. We see ourselves being, I think there's probably 3 to 4, maybe 5 acquisitions left in the next 3 to 5 years. And we're focusing on the Northeast. I'm not sure if that will change, but that's really our focus is this area. But of course, our business doesn't have to be local and regional. It can be national, but we only will grow as fast as we can stay ahead of the quality of our service to our customers, because then we lose our unique advantage. We can't grow so big that we can't be the responsive company that we've always been. That's our goal.
And what type of companies are you looking to acquire?
Well, there are actually a number of folks in our industry who are probably getting ready to retire. They've had a wonderful business for a long time, providing service to clients in their region, in their market, and they're just done. They're just ready to move on. And to make the leap into hosted phone service like we did, I think we're well over 750,000, perhaps as much as $1 million invested in multiple data centers that we've built with technology. To make investments that get you to that level, it's not easy. It's really difficult. And if you're an older business owner that is kind of had a great career but not ready to make that next leap, those are the kind of partners that we're probably looking to team up with. And it could be a partnership, and it could be an acquisition. We're flexible. We don't really know where it's going to be, but we have a lot of options.
What are some of the trends that you're seeing in your space for 2021?
So we always look toward integrations with databases, CRM databases, customer relation management, like Salesforce and HubSpot. We use HubSpot ourselves. We look for those sorts of opportunities to tie in. Maybe one of the major ones that we're seeing also is the integration with texting and messaging. So one of our local pediatrician offices with three offices, it's a practice with 3 locations, they were overloaded with phone calls. And the phone system was working great, no problems. They just said, help, we're in trouble. We've had to hire 2 or 3 people to help answer all the calls. Think about a typical interaction between a patient, maybe a mom and the kid going to the pediatrician. How many phone calls and contacts there are? First, they have to have the paperwork that says that they're COVID safe. And maybe if they're a new patient, they have to have that paperwork that gives them all their medical history. Then they have to arrange the appointment, and they come into the office. They have to wait outside because they can't come in yet. Well, it's double and triple the number of contacts. We've now have applications that we provide that let the doctor's office communicate directly with the patient by texting, including giving them documents to fill out on their cell phone that get all that paperwork done ahead of time instead of handing them a clipboard when they walk in the door. Who wants to hand a clipboard today with the pandemic? So that's all done ahead of time. And they can even pay when they're all finished. They can send a link. Click here to pay with your copay, $35 or $25 copay on your cell phone using your credit card in your car after you're done the visit. I mean, so this is all done by texting now. We have some wonderful services for that. That's just an example, I think, of the things that are changing and will become much more commonplace in 2021.
When you talk about the monitoring the phone systems for your clients, I guess, what are some of the biggest issues you see when you monitor the systems? You mentioned a little bit before, but what are some of the big issues where you do have to send a team out to fix them?
So oftentimes there could be a bad wire in the network closet that could be causing issues, in a poor Ethernet switch that maybe it's outdated, a firewall that's outdated. Those are things we go on site for. I'll just comment. This is a little bit of a follow-up to something I said before.
Sure.
I had a close business buddy of mine who has our phone service in the security alarm industry. He monitors and protects people's businesses with security alarms in their homes. And he wanted to have a meeting with his IT firm and us, his phone company, to talk about why his phone service was bad. So I went onto my monitoring last night. This was last night from home. And I looked at his system. His ping times were off the charts. His ping losses were really bad, losing pings. We ping him and it never answers back. So then I took a look at where his business was. And I did a Google map of his business. I saw the building. It's a nice corporate building with a lot of companies inside. And right all around his business is neighborhoods. There's townhouses and condo complexes, and there's gobs and gobs of single family houses all around that little corporate area that he is in. So I took a picture of that with Google Maps, and I highlighted for him, look, I'm sorry, but you're in a neighborhood. And then I looked at the history in the last 3 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, of his ping times. And Sunday was spotless. His pings were awesome to his building. We always monitor 24/7. Monday and Tuesday, the problem started at 9 o'clock, 8:30, and went through the day, and it finished at 5 or 6 o'clock. Then it was good again. And the same thing on Tuesday. I reminded my buddy, we're in a pandemic, and you're using simple, low-cost, consumer-grade cable service for your business. And you're in a neighborhood where everyone's doing Zoom and doing their virtual classes, and they're downloading movies and watching movies and doing whatever kids do at home and moms do at home and dads do at home. There's no question why you're having a problem.
Right.
So I suggested we look at fiber. Fiber internet is usually at least double the price. It's a minimum of $500, usually $450, $500 minimum for any kind of fiber service. And then it can go much up from there for corporations. But it's guaranteed. Every bit of internet you get is guaranteed to you. Nobody shares your internet. Cable modem service, which is most prolific throughout the country, is a shared medium. It gets a pipe into the neighborhood, and then everyone in the neighborhood gets their share of that pipe that was brought to them. And that's where the problems are coming in for businesses. That's the number one thing we see wrong. Some of the cable companies in our area, some of them are horrible, and I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to get in any trouble, but some of them are horrendous. They're not upgrading their networks. They should be doubling and tripling their nodes. They should increase the bandwidth and the equipment in the neighborhoods to increase what's out there, and they're not doing it. And I'm getting really frustrated about that because we're the ones who are having to break the news to the customers why they're having problems.
Hey, Michael, thanks for speaking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Sure. It was fun.